All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it off this afternoon, basically learning a little bit more about what has been accomplished as far as the export scene is concerned in the state of Wisconsin. You heard Howard as well as Randy talking about the Wisconsin Ag Export Council. This has been in existence for a couple years now, and as anything, it takes time, it takes relationships, it takes some financial investment to get some of these programs off the ground and establish the relationships that ultimately turn into business for Wisconsin agriculture. So our panelists in front of you today are going to help you understand exactly that in differing ways. And you're going to have a chance to ask questions. I'll ask before you. So immediately to my left, Craig Bryce. He is the Chief Executive Officer, as you can see, for Malton Ingredient Company. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute, Pam, let's see how that fits. We've got a path here. Dr. Amy Redunz, past president of the Wisconsin Cattlemen's Association, very involved in the industry, both here and on the national scene. And then we've got Jeff Schwager from the Export Advisory Council. He's a member, spent years, if you look at your biography in your book, with Sartori. And now, to a large extent, in the ingredient side of things, but just a great perspective on what's happening with consumer preference, not just here, but globally. What about supplies? What about trends, dietary needs, et cetera? So you saw earlier today when we took a look at where Wisconsin finds itself going on the international market, tariff or not, some of the things that are overlooked, ingredients, processed foods, our specialty foods. We've always known about cheese, but there's more to that than just our specialty cheese, and that's where we're going to kind of go today. Let's start on the platform of the Wisconsin Ag Export Council first, and base our first phase of conversations with that. Now, Jeff, you're a member of the Export Council. Amy, you've been involved intricately with some of the programs that resulted because of the Export Council. Let's start there. First of all, Jeff, give us a little bit of your pedigree so that they understand why you're particularly engaged in this part of the conversation. And then what's it been like to be on the Export Council? Did they have to twist your arm to get you on it? Did you think this is going to be a lot of hoo-ha? We're not going to talk about anything but dairy. It's only going to be a one-trick pony. Give me your perspective after you give us a little introduction on who you are and why you're here.
Sure, thanks, Pam. My background, I spent 14 years as president and CEO of Sartori Company. Sartori Company at that point was a ingredient and food service company. We developed a retail brand, but also globalized the company, where today it sells in over 55 countries around the world, which is something we're all really proud of. And the Export Advisory Council, I've been involved for quite a number of years, really since its inception, and it's a true working group that helps each segment. I can't, thank Secretary Romanski for his leadership and support of it, because he brings all the different groups together. We talk about what's working, what's not working, and literally leave every meeting with things that can help us grow our businesses in every segment, but also framing a list of things that we need help from the state on going forward to make it better. So it's been really a fruitful organization, a fruitful committee to be a part of, and it drives business for Wisconsin.
We'll get to some of the specifics in a little bit here. Amy, again, from the cattle industry, somebody that has also been boots on the ground when it comes to how the Wisconsin Ag Export Council has mobilized resources and how those have really, we were talking about it during the break, return on investment already.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the benefits or things that have been provided by the council is some grant opportunities. So the Wisconsin Beef Council and in partnership with USMEF has been able to bring in trade missions and do other activities that have helped beef exports out of Wisconsin. So, those programs have been very vital to helping us, again, bring other buyers here to see our farms, to see how we produce beef, get into our packing plants, make those, we talked about earlier about relationships, and particularly like the most recent one was Latin America, and they are somebody too who likes to have a personal relationship with those buyers. And so by bringing them here, I know it's already resulted in some follow-ups, right, from those trade missions and that funding that we've been able to get from these efforts.
You know, one of the things we've been talking about is sometimes we overlook what we've got. We take it for granted, whether it's transportation, whether it is the years of diligence that the Export Council has had. That's why Craig's here. He was a little paranoid at first about, he's like, well, I don't buy a lot of things from within Wisconsin for the malting industry, for the business he's in. But that may give you a bird's eye view on how others solicit your business, what you're looking for as a buyer, a kind of an almost reverse kind of situation for us. Craig, tell us a little bit about your business and why you think you fit in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. First, thanks a lot for having me here, and I appreciate this opportunity. You know, in terms of our business, we are manufacturers, and we produce ingredients for the food and the beverage space. So in the beverage space, think craft beer. So we actually reach over 50% of all craft breweries in the United States. So in our neighborhood right over here in our backyard, we've got the Great Dane and New Glarus as well. So on the food side, we also are pretty active there as well for ingredients. You know, when you go to the movie theater and you buy those malted milk balls, it's got the malted milk powder in there. Well, that's us. And there's a variety of other ingredients that we make. So yeah, so we really kind of span both markets. In terms of our activity, so it is true, we purchase a lot of our grain from out of state, so Wyoming. We're vertically integrated. But I'm actually very happy to say that as of 2 years ago, in 2024, we moved all of our wheat purchases here to in-state. So very happy to be able to do that and support growers here. You know, we're a family business. We've been around for 150 years as of this year. And so for us, it's really a great opportunity to partner with family farms. We buy about 50% of the barley that's grown in Wyoming. The other 50% is bought by a small brewery you might have heard of called Coors. And again, family farms there and family farms here in Wisconsin, so we're very proud of that.
Now, some of what we're going to be doing this afternoon is the stories. You know, stories matter. Thank God stories matter. Tell me a little bit about how that story that you can share, Craig, helps you on the marketing side, trying to get your product in. Does it matter on the ingredient side?
Absolutely, and that's a really great question. So really being a family company and having roots here and working with a lot of family farms, that's very important to our customers, really particularly in the brew space. The food space is important as well, and I think it's becoming increasingly important because I think that there is sort of almost a synonymity with family companies, family ownership, and ingredient quality. And we've definitely seen that move in the marketplace amongst consumers, right? Interest in really ultimately a healthier label. So there is that little synonymity there between family business, family farms, and healthy. So I think that's
Amy, that's the other thing. I've witnessed the Export Council in action through my job as a broadcaster. And Amy and Wisconsin Beef Council are another one of those examples where people from Central America love our product, but they don't know our story because they think we're Texas. They think we're a feedlot in Colorado or Kansas, and then they get here. Tell me about that story that you've witnessed, Amy.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been fortunate to go to Costa Rica and participate and see,
she says that on a cold winter day.
Yeah. You know, Wisconsin is unique. You've heard a lot of things about the positive beef market, right? We're probably one of the bright spots right now in terms of the other commodities in the room. Why is that? Because we have invested in corn-fed beef that is the highest quality in the world. So we've been able to differentiate that product, focus on the eating experience, and like in places like Latin America, and what we even heard from those folks there is as soon as they taste U.S. beef, they want it again, right? So one of our best-selling attributes is just taste it, right? And we do that. And what makes Wisconsin unique, though, is because of our dairy industry. People don't realize that Holstein or dairy beef is some of the highest quality beef that we produce in the U.S. And so we have it right here, and it's being processed in our plants in Green Bay. And there's other cuts from that as well that we can export to places like Japan. That's another trade mission we've done. Southeast Asia is one of our biggest markets. They love high quality beef, but they also it's really easy to sell steaks and middle meats. It's really hard to sell those other parts of the animal that are prime for prime price. And those markets have allowed us to do that and create additional value for that animal. That's not only for beef industry, but I think we heard a lot today for the dairy producers as well, right? So these industries are corn, dairy, and beef are so interconnected within Wisconsin and important to each other.
And when they get here and see all the green
Yeah.
and talk to the farmers,
Yeah.
that's the other part where it's almost like they melt against the fence while they're standing there experiencing it.
Yeah, I think we do have a great story to tell, and we show them beef operations and dairy operations. We want them to see both pieces of that because they're both part of our supply chain and producing the high quality beef that we see in those, that we're providing. But I do think we have, and a lot of those, again, we know we have family farms and a great story to tell, and so it's been a great selling point.
Well, and I want to make sure that people understand if you're a beef producer, you're worried about the Department of Agriculture's spending habits with Ag Export Council. To Tammy Vosson's credit, it's not like they're going to a five-star steak dinner every night. The last time I looked at their itinerary, they got done at JBS in Green Bay, and then they went to Culver's.
Yeah, they wanted to go to Culver's.
So-
I mean, that's my understanding. Why wouldn't you want to go to Culver's and
That's
have
right.
a Butterburger? I mean,
Or the
come on.
grocery store. You guys take them to the grocery store, too.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, just to see things, and that's what, we got to see when I went to Central America. We went to those grocery stores. We saw how U.S. beef was being marketed, and I went into that meat case, and I can tell you, I know it was coming from dairy beef because of the shape of the ribeye. So I don't know for sure, but I have to believe it's probably from Wisconsin, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was nice to see that.
So, Jeff, take it from any angle that you'd like, from when it was Sartori trying to bridge into that global marketplace, the story that was told, that's again about a family kind of feel, leadership. Tell me a little bit about how it felt to evolve in that process and now how you're seeing it replicated to a certain extent on the Ag Export Council efforts.
Yeah, I think when you look at Sartori going into the export markets, we elected to go after Europe early. We did some market research at the time, and Germany was the highest country that 3% of the German cheese buying public felt that the United States made cheese equal to or better than European cheese, which is who we're always measured against. 10 years later, Germany was highest at 3%. 10 years later, Europe continent-wide was 72% equal to or better than European cheese. And it's getting customers exposed to what we're doing. Whether it's beef, whether it's ingredients, any of the commodities, cheese, we do things right here in Wisconsin.
I don't want to, not to get too nosy about things, but one item also that I think is part of the underlying conversation here is, Howard mentioned it, you get a little bit of money and you put it into a watershed project. You get a little bit of money and you put it into the Ag Export Council. That little bit of money can really help a small family business or even a larger business that may have to research something a little bit obscure. And I'll use a personal example. I was on, I don't know what they call it, reverse trade mission or something like that, and Sartori was trying to get into the Middle East. Now, Yankee from Northeast Wisconsin never stopped to think about some of the more popular products from Sartori may have a rub on them, a wine rub or something like that, and that is no. It never dawned on me about those cultural differences that could cost you a lot of money if you had to do deep market research. If the Department of Agriculture helps you, I'm assuming that makes it very valuable.
I mean, the Department of Agriculture here helps tremendously from this standpoint with access to resources in virtually every country. So when you start looking at going in, you reach out, they put you in contact with somebody locally, and you learn. It's a perfect example. When we went to the Middle East, we were not going to take our Merlot Bellavitano there.
Yeah, that's the one.
Or our Kentucky Bourbon Bellavitano. But The garlic and herb, other non-alcoholic rub cheeses are very popular in the Middle East.
You know, you talked about the consumer patterns, and I want to make sure we lean into that as well, because that may be the next great opportunity that we have in any Wisconsin business. Let's talk a little bit about consumer preferences. I want to stay with you, Jeff, just for the depth of Sartori and now your current business. Consumer preferences can change with one TikTok video pretty quick. Look at cottage cheese. How can the Export Council weigh in on some of those kinds of things? How do they help you? Give us a little sense on how fast you guys got to try to pivot to keep up with that consumer preference.
Well, the consumer preferences change. It can be hourly,
Yeah.
but you've just got to stay with it. When you think about the buyer missions that are done and you bring in people from all over the world, some of the questioning we ask is, what's popular in your country? What are you seeing? And it gives us ideas for products. And that doesn't happen without, it'd be incredibly expensive for us to go to all those countries. They're brought to us.
Mm-hmm. How incredibly expensive is it, Craig? You want a specific ingredient, or more importantly, an ingredient that has a story that you can in turn incorporate into yours. How expensive is that kind of research, and who helps you?
Absolutely. I think that generally it can be quite difficult really to find probably the customers. It can be difficult to find the partners that can do the research. So, you know, I have to definitely agree with what Jeff is saying with the committee, but it can be a challenge for sure. And, you know, those barriers for smaller companies like ourselves are higher, right?
Yeah. And do you see when my previous panel was up here, I said, dairy farmers, for example, are just getting browbeat over sustainability to the point now where they just glaze over as soon as you talk to them. But every farm has a story. How you label it, and how you send it or bring it to the buyer is different.
Absolutely. I think one of the challenges with sustainability really is sort of the data collection and sort of the quantifying it and being able to provide that to our customers, which in turn sell it to the end consumers. One of the challenges that we face is the market and really our customers. They require a degree of sustainability, but the challenge is, of course, nobody wants to pay the premium for it. So then where does that squeeze happen ultimately?
Now, let's talk more about that sustainability. Amy, cattle industry has received criticism for how it raises its product. Wisconsin has a little different sustainability story versus other states as well, don't we?
Maybe. Not quite sure what you're referring
Pasture
to. Pasture
versus
Sure.
feedlot.
Sure.
BLM land versus
Yeah.
barn and that type thing.
Yeah, I think we do have a good sustainability story. I think one of the things we're very blessed with in Wisconsin is a lot of forage, and whether that's pasture forage or, again, a beef cow, primarily that even though we talk about corn-fed beef, the majority of the diet of that lifetime of that animal is still forage. We're only using the last few days of the life of it for corn, right? So we're utilizing particularly marginal land that we can't use for crop production, right? Pasture land that is not suitable for that, and not suitable for other pieces of farming, right? So particularly as we go into the western part of the state along the river, there's a lot of areas there that we can utilize that we can't use for other agricultural purposes, right? So I think there's a lot of reasons why beef production is well suited to Wisconsin, and is profitable. We have folks who have specifically come to Wisconsin to start beef operations because of the abundance of water and forage.
You might as well do your commercial now. You had me sold when we were leaning against the table over there. I mean, some of what we were talking about is hopefully the message that you will at least think about on your drive home. And you make a great case for the blinkers ought to be off when it comes to the beef possibilities in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, I think we heard a lot of things here today, and Pam knows, and a few in this room know, I've been working in some way with the beef cattle industry for almost, I think now 15 years in Wisconsin, and I'm not a native. I came here and I started out as the state beef extension specialist, but it quickly became aware to me the tremendous amount of opportunity that we do have. We were talking a little bit back in the room, and I've had these conversations with other folks, and I get to see it now on my current job, but we export a lot of our young beef animals out of the state of Wisconsin. They get fed somewhere else, and then they come back here to Green Bay to get processed. I think there's a huge opportunity in Wisconsin that we have to utilize our corn, to utilize some of the infrastructure that we do have, keep those cattle in the state, and let's feed them here, you know, and take advantage of some of those opportunities. So as, you know, we were talking about what are the opportunities and the ways to add value, I think that's one that's clear to me that we are missing an opportunity there, for sure.
And like you said, it's local. We're
Yeah.
not trucking it
Yeah.
in. It's local. What about you, Jeff? What opportunities are we missing? What things do you talk about? Not necessarily just your area, but when the Export Council sits around, what other opportunities aren't we necessarily featuring on the panel today, but you get kind of excited listening to the potential?
I mean, you're even talking about sustainability from the standpoint, we don't take credit in dairy for all of the sustainability, whether it's the farm level or the processor level. When you think about every component in milk, how it's used, it has a use for it. And then the water that's left, in a lot of cases, most of the cheese companies are cleaning that water to the point to be able to use it to clean their facilities. You know, I think we're incredibly good stewards for what we're doing, and we don't tell our story as well as we should. And I think that's probably we've got some individual cheese companies that they want it to be an advantage, but the industry really does well with it. You know, we make when you think about the state, over 90% of the milk goes into cheese. We have, when you think about how we've taken the beef for food and gotten it where it needs to be, we've done the same thing with the milk to be as productive as anybody else. And when you think about how much milk we get out of a cow today versus where it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we're second to none as a dairy production state as far as I'm concerned.
It still blows me away to think the product that we used to spread on the fields or feed to the hogs is now getting dried and fueling a lot of GLP-1 users.
GLP-1 users, all the energy drink business,
Yeah.
the protein bars,
Crazy.
all coming out of, dairy byproducts.
And it used to be hogs. Yep. Where are we going when you're in your business, Craig? What are consumers asking for from you? What's your next great conquest that you're working on now? And is it about a flavor? Is it about an experience? I mean, you're talking about craft brew. Last I heard, dry January, they don't drink as much. I mean, you got to be ready to pivot too.
Absolutely, and we've been very, very fortunate that we have pivoted very heavily to the food side. So I think that's what also distinguishes us from a number of the other malting companies as well. So we're very, very fortunate to have done that. Just in terms of trends, I think probably the ones that I would say are kind of the ones that you hear a lot in the media, right? Sort of that clean label. That's been definitely the strongest direction, strongest push. I don't really know if it's a new direction. I don't think that it is. I think it's more probably kind of that additional focus we're seeing, kind of more of this light being shown on that consumer interest. So that comes everywhere from, I mean, we all know about obviously the dyes, right? All the synthetic dyes, high fructose corn syrup, ultra processed foods. So definitely those are trends that we're seeing. And those are trends, fortunately, that work very, very well for us because that's been our focus over all of these years, really clean label.
You got a room full of advisors. What are your most difficult ingredients, dyes, or laundry list of things that you're trying to meet now that they could help you source in Wisconsin?
That is a really, really great question. Being ultimately grain-based, I would say really any of the grains that are grown out of state that could be grown here ultimately. I think we have some challenges, there's agronomic challenges, but really one of the biggest challenges that we have, and I'm sorry to go here, but it's transportation. That's one of the biggest issues that we have in terms of sourcing locally here in Wisconsin. Absolutely.
And we used to be the malting state.
Well, we still actually, Manitowoc, as of 3 years ago, declared itself the specialty malting capital of the world. So I think we still are the malting state.
But transportation, what element, any element in particular?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of elements. Rail is a very challenging piece of that. One of the issues that we have is rail line weights. So a number of the rail lines in Wisconsin are, I would call, sort of underweighted. So they carry less than what is the national average. National average is 286, 315, 315,000 pounds. The line that we're on, for instance, is 263,000 pounds. So we've got an 8% really inefficiency built in to whatever we do, an 8% loss. And that's really a challenge for us when a lot of our competitors ultimately can move at 286 or 315. So 8% plus. So
we had somebody from the railroad here. There, just see it if you're still here.
Hey, Brad.
But that's interesting. I did not know that. I mean, that's something. Again, that's why we have these conversations, because that impacts your business model. Either one of you two ever heard of that kind of thing? Wait. Okay. See, now we're all educated.
And we're in a unique state. So we're actually the largest rail user from Neenah all the way all the way east to Manitowoc. So we move a pretty good amount of volume by rail. Actually, Watco Service is one of our facilities in Waterloo. They're fantastic. So thank you, Brad.
So what else don't we know that the Ag Export Council is doing, has done, is planning to do? I'm sure that you could use more money. How many people are engaged in the program? What surprises you about people that are inquiring about the Ag Export Council? Any one of you take the question, and the rest of you, instead of nodding off or being on your phone, get your questions ready, because we're coming up on the bewitching half hour.
Yeah, I'll take that to start. I mean, the thing I look at with the Ag Export Council is you've got access to the resources. We can be spokespeople for the segments of the agriculture industry that we're involved with, to what resources are available. And it really starts with export tech and building a business plan to go into different markets, all the way through support to getting you in those markets. And once you're in the market, if you're having problems, you can get resources to help. So it's really from cradle to grave.
Who's handing us our lunch? Whether it's from your business model or what you're hearing in industry, who can we take a note from that's doing it a little bit better, a little differently, has a different system? Copying the greatest form of flattery, who else is doing it better than us that you're kind of watching, either of you three?
I think DADCAP is doing it perfectly.
Oh my, that's not fun. Please. You're not getting it. They might give you free parking. That's about it, Craig, so don't get too. But I mean, seriously, competition is all around us. What can we, sharpen up in Wisconsin to capture a greater market share, capture a new customer?
I'll take that from the standpoint that it's really getting the word out. I mean, we talked earlier today, there were a lot of comments on, I'll say, some of the national issues that are challenging us, and those are real. But from a state, at least I get approached, whether it's Michigan, Minnesota, California, Vermont, on the dairy side of, what are you guys all doing? Because it's working for you. I mean, I do believe we are the model for working that way, and it's consolidated. Maybe the thing that would work is if we could get state control of national issues. That would.
Yeah. What about you, Amy? You travel in wide circles. I mean, there was a time when dairy beef was very much condescended to, very much looked down the nose at it. And granted, the dynamics of what happened to the beef industry forced a lot of that hand. But where do we stand now when you have to sit in Denver or in Oklahoma? Can you give us a sense on have we made it into the big room?
Yeah, I think for sure Wisconsin is definitely more part of the conversation. I do think things like this, so while one of the things that I think as a result of the Ag Export Council for us is that DADCAP became a member of USMEF, and that organization has been tremendous. And if you don't know about the U.S. Meat Export Federation, they have staff and counsel around the world identifying markets for beef, pork, and lamb. And they're fantastic. They're our largest contractor on the beef checkoff. And I get to sit on that committee and hear. I think one of the things as we look at these uncertain times, and I think these guys would agree, and what's really important is we need to continually identify markets, and we need to continually make sure that, just as an example of what happened on the beef side, China was important, and when they shut us off, the USMEF was able to shift that and shift some of that product to Korea and do marketing efforts, and because they had the people, the relationships, and the resources. So whether it's DADCAP and the things that they're doing, not just, on other commodities, or partnering with somebody like USMEF, utilizing those resources, and I think making sure that we manage that risk. Part of that is making sure that we do have those relationships there and available, so when we need to make a change, we can take advantage of that.
I got to believe that's kind of true with you too, Craig.
Absolutely. It's funny because somebody asked me the question probably about a month ago. They said, if you could pick any place in the country or in the world to build a malt house, where would it be? And I said I would build it exactly where we are in Wisconsin. From, again, going back to logistics, still, even though there are challenges from having this trifecta of rail, water, and truck where we are, but really the institutions that help support our business and similarly situated businesses. I said before, DADCAP is doing it perfectly, and actually, very seriously, DADCAP has provided a lot of support for us, and I think for a lot of other business here in Wisconsin. When we talk about the trade missions, we talk about the grants, it's really active, and I think they're doing it right, as are a lot of the other Wisconsin institutions, like WSDOT as well. So I think that we're very well positioned. There's always learnings you can take from other states, for sure, and other countries, but I think we're really doing things right here.
Questions? We've got the two microphones up here. Don't be distracted. Look away. That's like Oz over there. Close the drapes. I saw the Miller Lite too. Let's stay focused, children. But if you've got questions, or maybe there's something that you're pursuing that we should know about, ran into quality issues or grading issues, something like that, because I'm sure that it's all about this exchange of stories and information. Just catch their, we've gotten transportation conversation.
Railroad guy's got a question.
Uh-oh.
So I've noticed in some of our trade, now we have an anti-American sentiment to buy and export to overcome. And I'm just wondering if you're seeing that in your markets, just due to the trade policy and how we're treating some of our partners. So I offer that up.
It's a good question. I might word it a little differently. I don't know that it's anti-American, but at least the markets that we work in, people still want the product, but what they're trying to do is get us to take the responsibility for any uncertainty so that they can continue to supply it, because they're not going to pay 50% premiums. The toughest part is we've got to get to, if it's not free trade, equal trade. Most people don't realize for us to export a pound or a kilo of cheese into Europe, we pay more per pound or kilo than Europe pays to bring product here. It's dairy, agriculture, when you look, because of our advantages, our productivity, we've been working with one hand tied behind our back for a long time. And yeah, there's that sentiment But the customers don't really feel that way. If you've got your product there, they want to continue to get the product.
Amy?
I think we've been fortunate because we produce this product that is unique and people demand it, and we have a high demand for that product because I think Dr. Botel showed it, the price, and many of you guys have seen it in the grocery store, but to our customers, export customers, it's even more expensive. And in reality, most of what I understand why exports are down is a supply issue more than it is because of demand. So when you have a product that's good, I think we can overcome some of that. So we haven't seen that yet.
Well, like you said, the variety meat story just always
Sure.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't stop and think about that unless you go to a foreign grocery store, and I've been blessed
Yeah.
to travel. When you go and see what they call center of the plate,
For sure.
it's like, the cats used to eat that at the farm.
No, we haven't talked about that piece too, but it's a really critical part to our export market is there's a lot of parts of the animal that we don't eat, tongue, liver, other pieces, but tripe. And that's another, besides the high quality beef part, that's adding a lot of value as well, is those other pieces of the animal that, again, culturally, we don't consume in the United States. And so some of that is even a need base, and so more of that's going to underdeveloped countries, working with those. One interesting story that we heard about is, particularly in Chile and Peru, most of those folks are anemic, so liver is a really critical part of their diet. So one of the things USMEF had done is develop a liver burger, so I'm sure you guys are all excited to have that on your next menu. But it was popular, and
What did they flavor it with?
flavor. It's not 100% liver, but mostly liver.
Glass of water.
Yeah, Pam.
Glass of water.
We were all excited to try it when
I
we heard about
bet.
it. Yes, we were. But for them, those are being marketed to schools and hospitals, and again, from a health standpoint too, we're offering something that those folks need.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, our value proposition is really quality. We sell on quality, not price. So we have a certain degree of really price elasticity. But in terms of kind of the tariffs, I think we do feel it from sort of both sides. So on the one hand, similar to what Jeff said about being foreclosed from markets, the duties going into Europe for us are 40 times higher than coming into the U.S. Not 40%, 40 times. Ooh. So that closes off the entire market for us. We do reach other markets. We export to about 30 countries worldwide. But on the other hand, though, obviously we feel some of the pressure, from our growers and with our growers because of their inputs, right? The materials, right? Metal, all of those things. So I think that it creates opportunity, but it also creates a lot of pressure and a lot of risk as well.
40 times.
40 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just even hard to fathom.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Questions? Arm in the air, anybody? How much further? Okay, so let's think a little bit more about
We got questions.
Oh, surprising. Kelly Wilford with a question.
Yeah.
Cross-examination from Miss Wilford.
Well, my first question is for Craig. And why is Manitowoc County the best county in the
Oh, of
state?
course.
Just kidding. I'm also from Manitowoc, so I had to ask.
I thought you were from Two Rivers.
Same.
Close enough.
I live in
Come
Manitowoc
see,
these days.
Oh, there we go.
But my question for really the three of you, working in the export market, one of the things that from a farmer level, I think we sometimes have a hard time communicating, and so especially given that you have employees, how do you help communicate down what the impact of that export market means for Wisconsin's economy for those jobs on the ground?
Just go.
I can at least say this, we've been able to just, from beef exports alone, we know that's probably contributing at least about $400 a head to the total value of that animal. So that's getting passed down through that supply chain, right? So that's a figure that USCMAF has been able to consistently monitor, and it's been $400 or higher, which is a significant portion of value. So without that, and we've been at times where we haven't had those exports, and it's reflected in the price.
Yeah, I mean, I think it came out in one of the presentations earlier today on the dairy side. It's a little over 18, between 18 and 19% of our milk, wherever it's used, is actually exported. We don't have a market for it here. If we continue on the productivity gains we are, we have to go outside our boundaries to be able to continue to grow, not just the processors, but the farms. And we do the best that's out there. I mean, it's real simple to explain to employees. And in general, I think employees take a lot of pride when they know you're selling in all these different countries. And, you know, some countries, at least on the dairy side, you know, I think there's 60 countries that are real easy to do. Then you get beyond that, and there's a lot of regulation to get through.
I gotta believe you got the same kind of.
Absolutely. So generally our team members, they see really where the products are going, and we're we make a concerted effort to communicate that to the team so that they're aware that they're engaged and they know what we're doing. You know, it's very nice for our team members when they go out to breweries domestically and they see bags of our malt, and they really love that. And that's a great source of pride for us and kind of what we do. We have had team members that have traveled internationally. When they go internationally, they see our bags in certain countries. And, you know, again, that's really a source of pride. And, of course, that makes its way back. So it really comes down to that communication and team engagement.
Question right here.
Hi, my name is Bruce Kahn. I'm with an organization called SCORE Mentors. As a voter in both state and federal elections, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that we should be talking to our legislators, both at the state and federal levels, about to help agricultural exports?
I mean, I'll start with that. To me, where I would be pushing at the federal level is that we need to get trade agreements in place. Europe has gone to very targeted trade agreements in specific countries and putting non-tariff barriers in place for us. And we are literally getting, and this is not just the current administration, this has gone on for multiple administrations in a row, where we just have not gotten trade agreements done. And, you know, a healthy economy, you know, leads to where we can have, you know, I'm going to say healthy families from the standpoint because we have jobs and good jobs.
So are you saying that the World Trade Organization and all those organizations have been ineffective for a number of years?
Would you mind repeating that, sir?
Are you saying that the World Trade Organizations that we hear about have not been, the agreements have not been complied with, and a lot of these countries are just going off and doing bilateral trade agreements?
You've got the, I would say the, you know, WTO has, while they've attempted to do it, the issue is you've got so many competing organizations and governments that WTO has not worked to have a universal system there. You know, we try to look, at least on the agriculture side, to something called Codex for identification of items. WTO has gone against that with allowing geographic indicators in places. You know, you've got a Madrid protocol that goes against a lot of the basic tenets of our Patent and Trademark Office. You know, it's, the more organizations there are out there, the more complex it makes it, and you get more conflict.
That's been poorly reported for years, I guess.
We're the minority voice.
Pardon me?
Agriculture is the minority voice. And just in my years of broadcasting, the WTO tends to cater to the lowest denominator. We want to help the starving kids in Kenya. They want to target that way, and they almost villainize. The United States says we could come in and do this. Well, we want them to do it for themselves. And then they change government or something happens. So good intentions get derailed. But agriculture, everywhere and I've been blessed to travel and see agriculture in interesting places. I was thinking of when I was in Egypt, in Egypt at that time, then I'm an old broad, so it was a while ago, and I went with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and their open air markets are where everybody does their shopping. It's outdoors. So the meat's hanging in the outdoors with flies on it, and the cheese is outdoors and that type of thing. They wanted to take us to their supermarket, which was about as big as 6 tables. And so and it's got everything. And I'm walking around, and there's one skanky-looking piece of Wisconsin cheese in Cairo, Egypt. And it's like, we can do this. We can do this if you let us help you do this. We can do this. So it's interesting. Maybe, Craig, you've got better insights because, again, you're on that food side of let me help, let me do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one item, and I appreciate the question very much. I think one topic that would push, probably no surprise, is infrastructure funding. To make any upgrades is so expensive, and we're talking about tens and tens and tens plus of millions of dollars. We've poured a lot of money into infrastructure upgrades. Fortunately, we've gotten some support from WSDOT for our maritime capabilities. But we're very aware of what the potential of our region holds for value-added products, which is something that the Secretary talked to and earlier, and also more, I'd say, sort of the commodity products. But again, really reaching these other locations, other places, it costs money, and that's one of the major challenges. There has to be the ROI there, but again, even with that, there's tremendous capex. So I think that's one element that would help improve our competitiveness globally.
Very good point. Yeah. Sorry. I saw you pop up. Anybody else? Stick your arm up in the air.
I'm coming.
Leonard? He can hear him.
Craig, when you look at entering new markets, is it top down or bottom up? So by that I mean, like, are you going through institutions, governments, like all the way down, or is it like there's a buyer, you're working with them, right, facilitating it that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Very often we've really reached out to customers, or we've connected with customers and brokers. We have had assistance and support of American government overseas, right? So through missions, of course, and through the embassies and some of the programs that are offered kind of through that vector, USDA, et cetera. But very often it's us engaging with the customers directly. I would say probably majority is us reaching out and going directly to customers, or customers reaching out to us.
Anybody else want to take a shot at that one?
I mean, I'll say we do it more of assessing by country what the potential market size is to start with, because you do have resources you've got to expend to be able to get into those markets. And then with that, we then look at the treaties that exist between the two countries, and then, tariff barriers and then non-tariff barriers, and we grade them A, B, and C, and we focus on the A countries.
All right. Any other questions? I'm going to give yep.
So you talked about the non-trade barriers and, for exporting more. What is the best strategy to start knocking those things down, to have those markets? It seems like the current administration is doing this, let's put up tariffs and bring them to the table, but it's causing a lot of collateral damage and a lot of uncertainty. What is the better strategy? Is there one?
I would say, and agriculture has done this in the past, rarely, but it's happened, where we as an industry band together and, go after representatives, senators, and really push the agenda that's going to support agriculture. Whether that happens, we're dealing with situations with such slim majorities that it's hard, that the extremes on both sides get listened to more than the people in the middle, and we all pay for that. But working with your representative, working with your senator, it'd be interesting to look, because people here are all active, they have an interest in it. How many communications do you make with your representative or senator every year? It should be at least 10 to 12.
I think one of the questions really ultimately is whether these tariffs that were put in place, whether these were implemented for leverage or whether these were implemented to try to have, again, renegotiate, or whether they were implemented really to create ultimately additional revenue for the government. So are they kind of an ends to a mean, or are they permanent? And that's obviously a question that I think nobody here can answer. And if you can, please tell me, because I'd love to know. But I think just repeating what was just said, it's really kind of that communication to your representative, and just trying to voice really what's important to you and to your industry. And
I don't want to jump ahead of you, Steve, but I had one question that I was curious wasn't asked earlier. What happens if the Supreme Court throws tariffs out?
Who's up for it?
I don't care. Jump.
They'll find another mechanism.
Yeah.
This is not the only mechanism.
Well, and that's what I wondered. Are we going to whiplash, or what are we going to do on the interim?
Yeah,
Is it market chaos, or is John Heinberg when I need him? But I wondered why nobody asked that earlier today.
And I think one of the big challenges, one of the big questions there as well, is whether there are refunds that are going to be paid. How does that all look? In this interim, is any sort of mechanism by which they can introduce new tariffs? Is that kind of a fresh start, or can you somehow make it retroactive? So, and that's a question to be seen. So,
Steve?
The ability to, before Trump and all the current tariff situations, the ability to export into, say, European markets or the Japanese market, this goes back to the Reagan administration. I'm that old. Is that there was this reoccurring theme about opening up trade markets, that food was always treated differently because there's this kind of national defense that countries almost felt as though it's a national defense that we need to be able to feed ourselves. So that means we need to protect our farmers within our countries. Is that mentality still floating around out there, so that agriculture will always have this kind of additional hurdle that other industries may not have?
I will say I've had the benefit of participating in some of the Asian Pacific negotiations, and I have not heard that come up. The one country that I have heard that come up in is India.
India?
Yep.
Really? Yeah, because I was going to say, if you look at the European Union, what they're doing in places like Ireland and Norway, or not Norway, but Holland, they've forgotten the lineage of World War II, and now the land's more important for people use than agriculture use, from what the farmers have told me. But I'm just the moderator. I'm not supposed to say those things.
Well, and you said, and at the same point, they're convincing consumers that their approach is better than ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
and there's one piece I'd just like to add. I know that there was a question, some questions, basically what we can communicate to our elected officials, right? I think one of the most one of the biggest challenges that we have, and I would imagine everybody here on this panel agrees, I know that the Secretary mentioned it, some other people have mentioned it, it's stability at the end of the day. I think we've seen so much really sort of variance in what's happening with tariffs and trade negotiations, and that's very, very difficult to navigate. That certainty provides a lot of value, a lot of benefit to, I think, every business.
Transportation too. Final question.
Undercurrents. 14 months ago, I'm working with a number of climate smart commodity projects. I'm Tim Bay, I'm a professor of energy finance here. And the entire dairy sector, majority of beef, definitely the biofuel sector, are all looking at global standardization, carbon accounting, execution from the farm level through the processor, through the CPGs.
And it's gone.
Poof. All the oxygen taken out of the room. From each of your perspectives, do you see those fundamentals optimizing at the farm level, integration with the processor level, returning once we get past this stage? Or is that entire international standardization, sustainability standards, has that gone by the wayside?
I'll let you start, because that's a tough one.
You're all looking at me, huh? No, I think there should be a base level of it. I will personally say I think it was going too far. I think what makes producers and processors here as successful is we can take and, I'll say specialize our products to the flavors that we want, what the consumers may want in different markets. And I would always say, I used to like to go to conferences and hear the standardization talks and what you needed to do, and I'd walk away and say, we're going to do the exact opposite, because I want to be different. That's how I'm going to generate value. But I do think there's a base level when it comes to food safety, quality of the products, nutrition, that all should be there, but there's a line that it shouldn't go past.
On that note, I believe that we have come to the end of the 2026 Ag Forum. I want to give special thanks to Dr. Paul Mitchell, who you have no idea how much time and energy, physical and mental, that he puts into pulling this together. Jeremy, appreciate the invitation. Jeff Hadachek, Steve Deller, you guys are staples around this. I really appreciate it. Social hour is about to commence. My name is Pam Yonke, the fabulous Farm Babe. I appreciate having the chance to help with moderation this afternoon. I hope everybody goes away with something extra to think about. Enjoy the cocktails, the panel. Thank you so much.